Donald Trump today, like a 1980s game show host, introduced sweeping new tariffs affecting nearly all U.S. trading partners under the guise of retribution.
Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
The measures include a 34% tariff on imports from China, a 20% tariff on goods from the European Union, among others. These actions pose a significant risk to the global economic framework, potentially igniting widespread trade conflicts and effectively starting a trade war that could crash the economies of smaller nations and make the cost of all goods much higher for American consumers.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that.
Speaking from the White House Rose Garden, Trump outlined his decision to impose elevated tariffs on nations with substantial trade surpluses with the U.S., proving that he does not understand how free trade works. Additionally, he announced a 10% baseline tariff on all imports, citing what he described as an economic emergency.
It's a special book. It's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years.
This move marks one of the most significant tax increases in recent history and could disrupt the global economic order. Many Americans may soon face higher costs for essential goods like housing, cars, and clothing. And while international trade relationships built over decades will clearly be jeopardized, this latest wave of U.S. tariffs arrives at a time when the global economy is still grappling with the lingering effects of inflation, mounting debt, and geopolitical tensions, not least the effects of the COVID pandemic. The implications of these tariffs extend far beyond U.S. borders. Depending on how world leaders respond, this decision could redefine the global trade landscape. Trump presented a physical chart detailing the tariff increases for key trading partners.
This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So, if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
A 25% tariff on automobiles and auto parts was confirmed. He justified these measures as necessary to restore critical manufacturing industries to the United States. Economists are asking, why do it this way? Under these new policies, the overall U.S. tariff rate has surged to 22%, a level not seen since the early 20th century. According to Olu Sonola, head of U.S. economic research at Fitch Ratings, the shift could profoundly impact both the American and global economies, with many countries potentially slipping into recession. The effects will vary, as tariff rates range from 10% for the United Kingdom to 49% for Cambodia.
If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49%. They made a fortune with the United States of America.
If this trade policy sparks a broader economic conflict, the repercussions could be particularly severe for major exporters like China, which may struggle to find alternative markets amid declining global demand. Meanwhile, a potential U.S. recession would have serious consequences for developing nations closely tied to the American economy. Central banks and governments worldwide may face mounting challenges due to these policies. The unraveling of global supply chains, which have long helped keep consumer prices stable, could drive inflation higher, making it harder for central bankers to maintain their usual 2% target. For example, Japan, which now is subject to a 24% tariff on its auto exports, and South Korea, facing a 25% rate, have already indicated plans to implement emergency measures to support affected businesses. Additionally, countries experiencing slow economic growth may struggle to manage their debt and maintain critical budget priorities, including defense, social programs, and climate initiatives. And when these tariffs fail to encourage the domestic manufacturing resurgence that Trump envisions, especially given the ongoing labor shortages in an already near full employment economy, he may turn to alternative strategies to address the trade deficit. One possibility is pushing for foreign currency adjustments that favor U.S. exports, a move that could threaten the dollar's status as the world's primary reserve currency.
At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate.
Meanwhile, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde warned today that Europe must accelerate economic reforms to remain competitive in what she termed an inverted world. When I'm writing and preparing to record a video here on 5 Minute News, staying focused and getting into the zone is crucial, but it's not always easy. I used to try music playlists to listen to in the background, but I found myself getting more distracted than focused. Then someone introduced me to Brain FM's Focus Music, designed by scientists and musicians specifically to enhance concentration. I gave it a shot, and it worked surprisingly well. That's why I decided to partner with them as a sponsor. With Brain FM, I feel more productive. It's easier to start challenging tasks, and I can stay in deep focus without distractions. The Brain FM team received a National Science Foundation grant for their work related to ADHD, and the app includes a dedicated ADHD mode. They offer great sleep sounds too that I have even started using at night. Brain FM is the only focus music with real peer-reviewed research. It just works. You can try Brain FM completely free for 1 month. Just visit brain.fm/5 to get started. Stocks dived, bonds surged, the dollar rose, and Asia's markets were set to slide on Thursday as Trump announced the bigger-than-expected wall of tariffs around the world's largest economy, upending trade and supply chains. Nasdaq futures tumbled 4% with tech on the top line because China, hit with a 34% levy on top of a previous 20% tariff, is such a significant manufacturing hub. Apple shares were down nearly 7% in after-hours trade. Trump also shut a loophole used to ship low-value packages from China, which is likely to hurt China's giant online retailers and your Temu addiction. Trading partners are expected to respond with countermeasures of their own that could lead to dramatically higher prices.
This will be a very big moment. I think you're going to remember today. It's going to be a free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation. It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say, you know, he was right. This has turned out to be one of the most important days in the history of our country.
In just 10 weeks as president, Donald Trump has aggressively exerted his influence over opponents in business, politics, and the media, and even allied nations, wielding immense power in ways that the president was never meant to, setting him apart from previous U.S. leaders and putting him into the ranks of historical dictators. His administration has moved swiftly to crack down on student protesters, withholding federal funds from universities, isolating law firms tied to political rivals, pressuring journalists and publicly challenging judges. At the same time, Trump has significantly downsized the federal workforce, removing employees who might obstruct his agenda. A key tool in his strategy has been the extensive use of executive orders, employing them to target adversaries more directly than his predecessors. Additionally, he's used lawsuits, public ultimatums, and control over federal resources to bring institutions into alignment with his administration's far-right, racist, isolationist objectives. Some of his targets have yielded to his demands, while others have resisted, but many are still evaluating their response. Numerous legal challenges have been filed against his actions, with some judges attempting to curb his influence. The speed and scale of Trump's actions have caught many off guard, including Democratic lawmakers, labor unions, corporate leaders, and members of the legal community. Trump's ambitions go beyond mere political dominance. His actions suggest a broader effort to reshape American governance into one where executive power reigns supreme, financial and cultural institutions align with just his vision alone, and opposition is either neutralized or absorbed. With a Republican-controlled Congress and a Supreme Court leaning to Donald Trump's far-right mindset, Trump faces fewer institutional checks and balances than any modern president. Using the full force of federal agencies and regulatory bodies, Trump has repeatedly sought to pressure and undermine his critics. His efforts have often borne fruit. His dictatorship is almost complete.
Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them.
I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.